that startled me. Yep. That's okay. Yep. All right.
Welcome to J is for Justice podcast. If live breaking news and following true crime is your thing, then please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you like what you see in my videos, please consider giving them a thumbs up. Well, hello everyone, and happy Friday to you. It is Friday, July 21st already. You can believe that. I can't believe it. I want to welcome everybody that came in today for this special live. This is actually my first time hosting a real life lawyer. So I'm really excited, and I know you guys are too. So without further ado, I am going to introduce my guest, Dmitry. Hello, Dmitry.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Hey, it's a pleasure to have you. I mean, like I said, this is my first time getting to pick the brain of a real criminal defense lawyer. I watch them on YouTube and, listen to their insight and things like that, but it's an honor to have you on.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, so you have been following this Carlee Russell thing, but first, before we get to Carlee Russell and what she could possibly, if she faked this whole thing, be facing, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your YouTube channel, what you've got going on?
Sure. My name is Dmitry Shaknovich. It's a hard name to pronounce, but it's not as scary if you look closely at it for just a second. I was born in Ukraine. I came to the U.S. when I was 3 years old. College, law school, the whole thing. Started my own law firm many years ago. And I teach at a college here in New York called John Jay College of Criminal Justice. And I have a YouTube channel that I started for my students. And I'd appreciate it if folks find me useful in some way to subscribe to it. It's youtube.com/@DShakLaw, DSHAK Law.
Thank you for that. And the mods are putting your link in the chat, and it's also in the description for the replayers. So you guys are definitely going to want to subscribe. And there's one thing you just said that you didn't include in your email, that you teach criminal justice.
Yep. I teach at a college here in not this past semester because of enrollment issues, but generally I teach at a college called John Jay College of Criminal Justice, which is one of the top criminal justice colleges in the country, located here in Manhattan.
Fascinating.
For many years. And that's actually why I started the YouTube channel, because during COVID, things went remote. And so I was looking for ways to keep my students engaged. And that was one of the ways that I decided to do it.
Well, I think you made a good choice, because it seems like everything's coming over here to YouTube.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I suppose so. I'm not too good at the YouTube stuff, but I'm working on it.
Hey, it comes with time. And I think with your expertise, you won't have a problem at all.
I appreciate that.
So,
we'll see.
Yeah, the criminal justice aspect really intrigues me, because we're following the Moscow, Idaho, University of Idaho killings here, big time. I don't know if you've paid much attention to that case out in Moscow, Idaho, back in November of last year. 4 university students were stabbed to death by a criminal justice PhD student. Well, wow. He's accused, allegedly.
Okay. That's important. That's an important addition to that topic.
Yes. So the trial is slated for October. Mm-hmm. And so we're right in the midst of, the defense and the prosecution with their motions back and forth with each other.
Yeah, those cases are tough. The murder cases are reserved for the top flight lawyers. I mean, you have possible forensic issues and other issues that arise very rarely in other types of cases.
Yeah.
And those are the cases that most people are interested in for obvious reasons, right? I haven't heard of that particular case, but I track most of the high-profile cases around the country, and for John Jay, I do a lot of media, so I'm dialed into a lot of these cases from across the U.S.
I'm shocked that you aren't familiar with this case. And maybe we can have you back another day to kind of, maybe dive into the aspect of the criminal justice student. Is it shocking to you to hear that a criminal justice PhD student who was working as a teacher's assistant, no less, is the one accused of this horrendous crime of 4 murders in an 8-minute time frame?
Look, first of all, as you mentioned, it's alleged, right? Nobody knows whether or not he'll be convicted. And I obviously don't know the details of the case because you just brought it up to me. But generally speaking, folks that commit vicious acts, criminal acts, come from all walks of life. And unfortunately, there's no way to narrow down a category of person. Otherwise, it will be a lot easier to prevent these things from happening.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're right. When you see somebody with a certain background, you may think, oh, this person, wouldn't go down a certain path, but that's just not how it always works.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I guess someone in chat just said, everybody's like, oh my gosh, how has he not heard of the Idaho 4? And someone said, some people actually have lives. And a lot of us have eat, sleep, and breathed this case since it happened. So it's funny.
Well, don't forget, my primary job, what I do mainly in my life and what I feed my family with is my representation of my clients. That's what I do every day. And that is what my focus is on an overwhelming amount of my time, night, days, and weekends.
I can't imagine.
So I love doing this kind of stuff, but I don't know if I can maintain with all the current events. It's just
right. It's a lot. I mean, if you're carrying a full caseload of clients and you're in court and you're doing research, you're not researching the Idaho 4.
I'm not. No, not unless I'm hired. I am not.
I hear you. And who can blame you there? I can see that following these cases, I've learned a lot when we pull these documents from, the court websites and stuff, and we read through them. And it's really nice to have lawyers like yourself. I'm glad that you're coming to YouTube, and, it sounds like you could maybe break down some of these law terms that, us lay people can't.
Absolutely. No, I listen, like I said, why I spend most of my time representing folks in courts throughout the city every day of my life. And secondarily, I teach, right? And teaching is a good way to know how to break things down for folks that may not as easily understand certain terms. And so I'm really good at that, and I'm well versed at that kind of thing. And I like it. I enjoy it, and it always keeps me sharp, which is good.
Yeah, you're really easy to talk to. So I think you'll be great here on the tubes. So I wish you much luck, and I hope that everybody will check you out. And let's get into Carlee. Carlee Russell. So what initially caught your attention with this case?
Here's the bottom line, and it's so tough because I'm not an idiot, and I know what people are thinking when they watch the press conference, and I know what people are thinking when they read what's in the press and on the internet. And clearly, there seems to be, right, a certain tone that is set for what happened here. But when you watch that press conference, the most important parts of it are the very beginning and the very end. Because at those 2 points, the detective with the purple suit, the very bright purple suit, he says that notwithstanding all this stuff, the investigation is ongoing. And that's tough for people to deal with, right? Because they want answers now. We live in a world now where everybody wants answers now, and information, and there's all this information out there, and everybody's talking about things. It's important for the process to work itself out. It's important for the police to conduct a comprehensive investigation for a variety of reasons. And so right now, very little is known. Obviously, the police investigative chief did conduct a press conference where he laid into some of the findings, but we're still very early on. and the police owe a duty to the victim, right? The alleged victim here is still Carlee Russell, right? And they are searching, right, to find whether or not she made any credible complaints. And they do that because if and when, and I know folks think it may be unlikely, but if and when somebody's arrested for this and charged and brought to trial, they have to make sure they gather the evidence and preserve the evidence the right way, right? And if they go talking to the media and doing things that satisfy the public urge, then they expose themselves to that possible issue, right? Last thing they want is to turn this case over to a prosecutor at some point. And again, it may never happen, but if they do, they don't want a defense lawyer to poke holes in this investigation based on all these outside factors. So that's their primary job, and they're doing it.
Yes, and I'm so glad that you just said all that, because I think here in YouTube land, we lose sight that they really don't owe the public anything during an active investigation, right?
That's exactly right. Not owing the public anything may be too strong, but the tone of what you said is exactly right. Their job is to conduct a comprehensive investigation, right? That's their job right now. And it may be difficult for people. And this happens, by the way, with every story. This is not new, right? With every investigation, with every high case, people go out swinging for the fences, trying to find something. And sometimes they're right, sometimes they're not. But it's important to let that process play out.
Absolutely.
And this isn't a case, by the way, that is going to take years to figure out, right? They have to conduct research and investigative work to gather photo, video evidence, if there is any, DNA forensic evidence, if there is any, physical evidence, if there is any. This isn't a, tax fraud case where you're going to have to gather decades
tons
long
of documents and stuff,
tons of tax records and bank statements, right? It's not that kind of case. So I can't imagine this will last, into the end of the year, but we'll see.
Yeah, because I think they said they're looking for the 49 hours. So they're literally investigating a 49-hour time frame versus, like you said, a 30-year paper trail of documents, in a bigger case.
Exactly right. And look, at the end of the day, they're doing good work from what it seems, right? They're working with federal authorities. They're working with the FBI. They're pulling Google search histories. I mean, they are doing good work. When the feds get involved, right? This isn't a federal case, at least not from what I can tell yet. But when the feds get involved, usually the investigation is stepped up to a different point. And here the feds are involved, and that's why all this comprehensive investigative work is being done. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, so yikes with the feds being involved. So in that press conference, he didn't just say the FBI. He said the U.S. Marshals and the Secret Service. What's up with that? Why would they be in on this?
Well, the federal government has resources available to them that even other local and state governments don't, right? There is a reason why the federal conviction rate in the United States, and it's high everywhere, but the federal conviction rate in the United States is in the high 90s. Federal investigators do good work. They do comprehensive work. They do detailed work, right? And so when they get involved and when they allocate all those resources to something, they usually get the right job done, right? And so when you hear that federal authorities are being pulled in this direction, that's a good thing as it relates to how good the investigation will be.
Okay, that's good to know. That's really good to know. So do you think, though, the fact that it went to that level could mean that if it is a hoax, that it would be taken more seriously? I think there's a lot of dynamics, like socially, that are a problem here. I don't think Black people get enough coverage when they're missing. And the fact that this lady blew up in such a short amount of time is such a setback for the Black community in the missing persons segment of that. The fact that if it could be fake, it's just going to set them back even more,
Look, unfortunately, if this is a hoax, and again, we shouldn't jump to that conclusion just yet.
Right.
But if it is a hoax, then what hoaxes do in every case in every criminal case, not just this one, in every criminal investigation, is they set back the fight of the victim. And by the victim, I don't mean this specific victim, I mean the victim in general, right? Whenever you have a case where it's obvious that somebody had complained to police for some unapparent reason, that sucks. That sucks for everybody. That sucks for the accused. That sucks for the accuser. That sucks for the prosecutors. That sucks for the government entities allocating enormous resources that they could be allocating towards other things. That may be good for guys like me, defense lawyers, right? Because then we get, sometimes paid for doing less work. But otherwise, that's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, unfortunately, that is a reality of the criminal justice system. And, a lot is being asked of, well, what'll happen to her if she is lying? What'll happen? What will she be thrown in jail? And that depends on the charges and if and when that happens, a variety of factors. But we have to be real careful, and we are. The system is real careful with taking victims and prosecuting them, right? Even if some folks may think that it's justified,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because as a society, we want people to come forward when they think something happened to them or others. And when doing something like this results in a prosecution of a victim, that may prevent other victims from coming forward. So, what you're saying is right. The flip side is also right. It's an incredibly delicate balance
Mm-hmm.
and a fine walk.
Well, and two, that she involved a child. I think, as someone who follows these Amber Alerts when they come out, and, these cold cases that are being solved of children that went missing, as kids, and their bodies are found, all these horrible things. And she's calling the cops like, hey, there's a toddler with no pants, and it's just, and like you said, it's unfortunate. It sucks, but it's part of things that happen, and we just have to keep rolling is basically it, right? Like,
well, do you want the reverse? Do you want victims to say, well, something happened to me, but I don't know if I should go forward because if I can't prove it, I'm going to get in trouble, right?
they're going to think I'm lying. Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm simplifying, right?
Yeah.
The system is incredibly sophisticated in dealing with this kind of stuff. But you don't want to create a culture in which victims are afraid to go forward, but you do want to create a culture in which people that are accused of crimes have their rights protected. These are all moving parts, right? And it's very hard to deal with them moving at the same time. And they do in every case, not just this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's complex, right? Even the smallest investigation can be complex.
And expensive.
Yeah. So what's your feelings on like the complexity of digital evidence now? Do you find that it's easier to kind of follow? Do you find that it's accurate? Is it something you can rely on?
Here's the thing. Criminal justice and the field of criminal justice and criminal law and law enforcement and the court system, they are just subsets of what's happening in society on a grander scale, right?
Mm-hmm.
With time, the government will get more sophisticated in dealing with digital evidence. At the same time that people get more sophisticated in dealing with digital evidence. And so those things will clash. Mm-hmm. The same way why, the way you watch videos from criminal cases in the 1970s and they're all grainy, and now there are 4K cameras everywhere you go, right? Society will change. One of the reasons why, for example, organized crime dropped is because you can't really run an organized crime organization with everybody having cell phones, right? It's very difficult.
Yeah.
And so the criminal justice system will adjust as society adjusts. And all these other things that I'm not smart enough to know about, like AI and so on and so forth, they will also play a role as time passes. Nobody knows what role that will be.
Right. So it's constantly evolving. And
it's constantly evolving.
Okay, so let me ask you about your I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I'm curious about your criminal justice program. Are a lot of the students now going into different avenues, like where it's strictly cell phone? Like, is it that narrowed down yet as far as like a career path? Like, hey, I'm just going to be working on cell phone evidence.
For sure.
Really?
there are subsets, right, in every criminal justice career,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whether you're working for the police department or a federal authority, whether you're working for the borough prisons, whether you're working for, and I can go on and on and on and on, the jail system in various states, the court system, right? There are people in place that specialize in this. And one thing that you really want is for the smart folks in those fields. I was never one of them, but the smart folks in those fields to allocate their resources towards public service. And some of them do. And that's really great because, if folks want to go work for Facebook or Google or that's great too. But if they work in furtherance of public service, they can really help you and I and everybody else, right? Because they will advance that fight faster.
Yeah. So is that someone that you have employed as far as like cases that you've dealt with? Have you hired a digital forensic analyst yourself?
I have at various points. It's incredible. It's difficult to discuss. Number one, those folks are generally very expensive. Number two, you have to know when you're hiring them and for what. Are you hiring them for trial? Are you hiring them for other reasons? They come into play at different points. When you're the government and you prosecute cases, you have all these folks on staff, so you don't have to worry.
Right.
You're an individual defendant and you have a caption against you where it says United States of America versus somebody, or people of the state of whatever versus somebody. That is daunting, right? And you're dealing with those kinds of resources, and it's hard to match those resources.
I bet.
More money than anybody in the world. So,
do you think it's going to become more common though, that it might be something in the future that might be available, as more people graduate, and that there's going to be is there a need for that? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Look, I think that the field, like I said, the field will evolve with the development of technology, as it always has, right? The same way that, I have cases now every day where I can go on Facebook and find a party in my case, see if, they're claiming one thing in court and posting photos of something else,
yeah.
right? That's just a simple example, but that's one of the things, right? And that's an evolution from what we had, and it will eventually evolve and evolve and evolve,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully when I'm 70 or 80, we'll be in a different world.
Yeah, right? We'll be flying around in cars or something.
Yeah.
There was another case that we followed through a trial. It was the Alec Murdaugh case, and I don't know if you heard of that one. We found out so much about digital evidence, like the fact that if you hold your phone this way and then turn it this way, they know. It's mind-blowing.
Oh, it's so much easier to just make friends with the fact that whatever's in your phone and in your computer, and then even in your TV and beyond that, is something to watch out for, right? Because, these are mechanisms that are designed to outsmart the human being.
Mm-hmm.
And you should make friends with the fact that, you're always kind of under surveillance in that way. Not to sound dramatic,
right?
But
like your privacy isn't what you really think your privacy is. So I think it's really excuse me, interesting, because we covered John McAfee. I don't know, about a year ago. I'm sure you know who John McAfee is, the antivirus guy, and he said, a long time ago, anything you put on the internet, anything you put on Facebook, just consider it open to the world. And that's just the way you have to view things, or you're going to be screwed over left and right,
Yeah. I mean, if you're smart, then that's exactly the way you think, and that's something that I tell clients, and that's something that I tell students, and that's something that I tell everybody, because it's the truth. It's a fact.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy where everything's going. So it sounds to me, though, that you don't think that Carlee is going to face any charges.
No, I don't.
If she lied.
No, look, I got to be very careful when I speak about these kinds of things, because at the end of the day, there's fact and there's opinion and there's speculation. I can only talk about the facts right now. And unfortunately, there are not many facts. That's just the bottom line. There are not many facts. The police did hold a press conference where they revealed certain information that people wanted revealed, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
But still, the investigation is closed, right? And there's a real account of what happened here. It's going to be hard to say what her penalty will be, what the process will be like, if this was something that isn't genuine, why did she do it? Is there some mental health or other issue at hand? These
Yeah.
are,
We just don't know.
it's a multifaceted analysis.
Yeah, we just don't know. I mean, if she did, like you said, if she did have some kind of a mental episode, we definitely don't want to shame her for that. And that's
or a million other things that we don't want to shame her
yeah.
for. Or, was somebody else involved? Was she under duress? I mean, these are all questions I can go on, ask hypotheticals all day, right? And that's the fear. That's what folks are doing, and I get it, but that's the fear.
Yeah. Well, I think they said that the general public of the, in the community felt maybe unsafe. And
Right.
they felt like, they needed to at least clear the air that there wasn't a threat to the community. And with that being said, I have a question from chat for you.
Yep.
And this is from Tough Tiff. And she says, don't they owe the public some sort of peace of mind after putting out the scary warning initially? Maybe not all the details, but that there's no missing baby and no kidnapper at the least.
That's a great question. And the answer is yes, right? The police do owe the public something, but they don't owe the public as much as they owe the victim, right? And they don't owe the public as much as they owe the integrity of the investigation, right? And let's not forget that if and when they release certain details to the public, they now have to deal with a plethora of other issues that can derail them from the job that they're doing. So, as is everything in the law and in life, right? It's a balancing test. It's a pros and cons balancing test. And they have to be careful because they don't want somebody to say, oh, well, we have this information about there's no baby or there's no something else, and now we can kind of relax, or there is something to be worried about, and now we're going to lose our minds, and everybody's going to call the police, and so it's incredibly delicate. That's the truth, particularly this early on.
Yeah, because they couldn't possibly know that quickly if there was a toddler running around. I mean, they had to actually check first before they can tell people, no, there isn't, right? They have to be certain that there really wasn't.
They have to conduct investigations, right? And they have to see, were there missing children reported? Where and when? How far do you want to cast that net? How wide do you want to cast that net? Do you want to confirm, if the complaint was that there was a baby and there's a complaint that a child went missing that is a little older than a baby, do you want to contact that family and verify those things? There's so much work, right, to do here. That's why there's so many government entities involved.
Yeah. You know what's really interesting is 2 days before she went missing, there was an Amber Alert in that same area for a 9-month-old baby. She was found. But yeah, there was an Amber Alert. And it's interesting. She Googled the Amber Alert, how much does it cost to have an Amber Alert? And what's the maximum age, I believe she said?
I believe so. Something with the age. I remember.
Yeah, I was wondering, maybe she saw a news report, an Amber Alert. I don't know. Maybe that's why she was Googling it.
All speculation.
Of course. I got to get used to this. Lawyers have to stay factual, especially on YouTube. I get it. You got to be careful. Like, this is not law advice.
It's not law advice. And I just don't want to be dishonest with people. The same way I am with my clients, by the way. I'll tell them I can't tell you what you want to hear. I got to be honest with you. I'm delicate, and I don't beat people over the head. But it's the same thing. I can't sacrifice the truth for pleasure. I just can't. If I do, then it knocks off the whole profession.
Well, there's
right?
your integrity, right? I mean, that's your integrity.
That's right. People have to rely on what I say, whether it's in this forum or elsewhere. So that's why I'm being so I don't mean to be so restrictive. It's important that I just say the right things and tell the
For
truth.
sure. Tough Tiff said, "Thank you. My lawyer daughter taught me to say, in my opinion."
Oh, back from defamation. Yeah, okay.
We're trying to
Okay.
do that around here. We're trying to train, I think instead of stating things as fact, because that's how rumors get spread around. Then you have someone go to another chat and state it as fact, and then it's a mess.
Yeah, well, defamation is an interesting field, right? You can't uh, say you can't convey a fact and try to make it look like an opinion because the courts will sniff that out as a fact anyway.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's interesting that that was said. That's funny.
I want to get your opinion on something.
Yep,
And Incognito Potato brought this one up in chat. She said it's
sure.
interesting Moscow, meaning Moscow, Idaho, and I know you don't know any facts of the case, but I'm just going to give you a little scenario.
Yep.
They did a press conference and they said that there was no threat to the public, but that in the same breath, they said they didn't have a suspect. And at the time, I was like, maybe this is a tactic because right now, they're not interested in telling us what they know. They're interested in putting things out there possibly for the perpetrator. Can you give us some insight on, why things are said in press conferences early on and what they could mean and how
Well,
they're used?
well, it's possible that no threat to public safety converts to don't call us a million times about nonsense, right? Because if there is a threat to public safety, uh, people will tend to panic, right? And if people tend to panic, they tend to call the police. And if the police are dealing with something, then they don't want to be derailed with additional materials,
Okay.
right?
So it's kind of
And,
a veiled way of saying, hey, we've got this under control. You don't need to be calling us at every knock you hear, every door you hear, every car that drives by. It's kind of their
huh,
way of relaying that. But the lay person like myself, I don't take it that way. And I'm glad that you explained it that way because it's a totally different way to look at it. I think
yeah,
we tend to look at it like they don't know what they're talking. I have so many people that come in. They don't know what they're talking about. They are dropping the ball. They are a small town podunk, and it's just, then we find out later on they had all their ducks in a row, and it was a
yeah,
comprehensive investigation.
yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
So let's see. We've got another question for you. This is from Slapshot. Hi, could she refuse to talk to law enforcement? If so, what could happen? Thank you.
The short answer is yes. Nobody has to talk to law enforcement ever. Um, so the short answer is yes. It depends on the circumstances under which she refuses. Police shouldn't take silence as an indicator of guilt, if that's the question. Um, but it depends really on the circumstances.
So they're going to give her time. Do you think they're going to, do they kind of, you think, have in their minds, how much time they're going to give her to recover from this trauma? Like they said, get herself back together before she speaks to them. What would you think would be a reasonable amount of time that they would give her?
Well, it depends. Don't forget, they're dealing with a family, right? So they are intricately involved in her condition, at least to the extent that they need to be to know when to pry further, right? So it depends on what she's going through. Nobody knows that, at least not in any real detail.
Thank you for answering that. Let's see. Okay, here's another one from Dawn. She said, what exactly could any charges be? We know she stole from her employer, made a false 911 call, lied about a baby and kidnapper, and lied to police. But we don't know if she lied to police yet.
Well, we don't. Some of that we don't know. Uh, None of that we do know, really, and I mean conclusively. But look, in every state, lying, and in the federal government under 1001, right? Lying to authorities is a big deal, and people are sometimes prosecuted for it. But you can't forget that issue with the re-victimizing victims,
Yeah, I
right?
think that's important.
You always have to keep that in mind because nobody knows if she made stuff up and if she did, why she did. And that's the crux of this discussion, really.
So you think they're going to be careful with victimizing? Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, you can't set a precedent where you're prosecuting victims when things go south. And I understand there must be a carve out for people that intentionally deceive law enforcement and use law enforcement resources for unsavory reasons. I get that. But we just don't know why she did what she did, if she did anything.
Do you think we'll ever even get the details?
It's funny, police records that don't lead to prosecution, at least for a very long period of time, remain confidential. In other words, you can't access them. You can file freedom of information requests with, in many places. But if there's an active investigation, they won't release those.
Yeah.
So we may not for some time.
But we will eventually maybe see like the police report, her statements, things like that, statements of her family.
Eventually, we may. Eventually. That will take time.
Well, thank you for asking that. It looks like that's all the ones that people put up in the chat here. Black Knight says she lied. She should at least pay for the resources she wasted. A lot of people have said that. Like, they should have to reimburse. I mean, look at Sherry Papini, though. That was pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's called restitution, when you pay back a victim of a crime for a crime. It's paying back the government for wasting government resources is unlikely. Yeah, that doesn't happen.
No. They just eat it and keep it moving.
Well, I don't know how many people can afford it.
Yeah. So how much do you think like a 48-hour investigation like that would run? I mean, are we talking millions?
Possibly. I mean, it depends on what you're counting in that investigation. It depends on the amount of agents that were involved in this, right? The amount of work that was done. It depends, but government resources tend to add up real quick.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. They always do.
Yeah.
They always do. So interesting that you are in New York City. Have you been following the Long Island serial killer arrest at all?
I have. I'm only about 30 minutes away from Long Island. I have. It's very early in that case. There you have more than you have in this case, obviously, because you have an arrest and you have 3 murder charges and possibly more. And murder cases are different than this kind of case. But I have been following it, and it'll be interesting to see in the coming months what happens.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Long Island cases move faster oftentimes than cases out here in the city for obvious reasons. So we'll see.
Yeah, I actually have a viewer who emailed me that lives a street over and has lived there for a long time. And he had some really interesting details about living in that neighborhood. So it's interesting to see the people coming out. As always, it's a circus.
Yeah, Long Island, it's one of those places where you hear every so often some crazy stuff will happen.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So are you anywhere near where his office would have been in Manhattan?
I don't know where his office was in Manhattan. Where
I don't know. I thought maybe you knew.
No, I don't think he'll be going there anytime soon.
No, I don't think so either. It's just so eerie.
Yeah, his landlord may be upset. I don't think he's paying rent anytime soon.
Britt says her whole family is from Suffolk County. Suffolk or Suffolk?
Yep, Suffolk County is a bit farther out than Nassau County from the city. Suffolk County is probably about my first year of law school was out in Suffolk County. It's about maybe 50 minutes from here, maybe a little more. Yeah, Long Island is generally divided into Nassau and Suffolk counties. Those are the 2 big ones, unlike here in New York City where you have more.
Yeah, so we're all kind of waiting to see if he's got more victims out there. That
everybody is, right? It looks like everybody is. The numbers change daily.
Yeah, you guys also had Long Island, the Son of Sam killer back in the day. He was
Son of Sam was in the 70s. I think that was in the city.
Was it in the city? I thought it was Long Island. I don't know. I think of it all as the city.
No. It's definitely not all the city. But you may be right. I don't know exactly. I know that lasted for a while, and Long Island may have been involved. I'm not.
Amityville Horrors, the Amityville house.
Oh, Amityville Horror. That's right. Amityville Horror was on Long Island.
Let's ask Stephen King what's going to come out of this case, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I don't see any other questions coming in, but I do want to take a minute and thank you again. And for anybody who joined after we started, tell us again what you're doing and your YouTube.
I appreciate that. No, thank you for having me. This has been really fun.
Yeah.
My name again, Dmitriy Shaknovich. I'm a lawyer and professor here in New York City. And if you want to subscribe to my channel on YouTube, which includes a bunch of law related stuff that some people find useful, it's youtube.com/@dshacklaw. That's DSHAKLAW. And I hope that you find it useful and subscribe. I'd appreciate it.
For sure, for sure. And I expect when you blow up that you're going to have me on as a guest. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'd love to have you back, though, Dmitry.
Please give me a call anytime. Email me. I'll gladly come on.
It's been a pleasure. So nice to meet you. And I know my audience enjoyed having you on as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you, and thank you to them.
Thank you. Have a good one. Have a good weekend.
You too. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed having Dmitry on. I have to say, I completely enjoyed having someone who can talk in our, language and explain things to us in layman's terms. And I'm not going to lie, I'd love to have him come back and talk about, his criminal justice teaching job and things like that. Just, as far as the Idaho 4. I know the Idaho 4 is always in the top of our heads. So, yeah, how do we have a photo? Oh, YouTube Press. The moderators can put the photo up. His YouTube channel link is in the description. So, yes, the fact that Robin says, I love that he's so careful. The fact that he's so careful makes me have confidence in what he says. And I like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. And just for the record, I know I mispronounce a lot of things on this channel, but I actually said his name correctly before we came on. Go figure. I can say, I don't want to hack it, but I can say his name without mispronouncing it, but I can't say city names. Go figure. Hello, Miss Remy, and hello, Mrs. Kurt Cobain. Always a pleasure to see you, lovelies. Mac Pride says it's good to have a grown-up around. I know, we need to bring grown-ups in every now and then to whip us into shape, don't we? Exhibities. He's all about exhibities and facts. I agree.
Exhibity. EXHIBITY.
And you know what I forgot to do before I brought him on?
Unleash the lawyers.
I know. I'm like, how about this case? How about this case? Do you know this case? Do you know that case? Like, oh, what do you mean you have a job? You have a full-time job? You mean you don't follow every single crime that happens? You mean you don't follow every murder that makes the news? We're crazy, y'all. We're crazy. And Mac's right. We got to bring the grown-ups in every now and then to simmer us down, because we get too much like.
I think you've got a Ouija board down your pants. You're going to pull that out.
Oh, man. Okay, so listen, guys. I have a preview for you guys. First of all, before we do a preview, let me show you this. This was the result of our poll. We had a whopping 990 votes. You guys are amazeballs. Okay? 990 votes. And this I put up on the 18th. And it says, do you think the outcome of the Carlee Russell case will be ... Charges against her or family. 60% said yes. Charges. 4%, a perp is on the loose or arrested. She had a mental episode. Leave her alone. 30%, and other. Oops, I put comment. It's an Elon world. 6% said other. So I thought that was interesting. I wanted to share that before I forgot. But guys, I'm going through the Idaho 4 or the King Road podcasts for you guys. You know how I've been doing. And I wanted to give you guys a little sneak peek because I think this is important, not only to remember, I think that with following Dmitriy, we need to keep it where we're not jumping to conclusions before we know if someone's a victim. Right? That's kind of what his message was. We don't want to victimize victims until, at all. We have to figure out all the facts. So with that being said, I want to take you guys down Idaho 4 Lane, King Road, and bring you guys down to reality, because this is going to be part of our discussion next week. Hold on. And I think it's important that we back up sometimes and stick with the facts. So here are some facts from the ABC podcast. This is on episode 4 or 5. And we're going to be going into detail. There's more in this episode. This is just something I threw together today. I saw another report where Ethan Chapin's mother and his family went to a concert. And I hope you guys enjoy this little video. This is to remember Ethan Chapin, even though we didn't know him. He deserves to be remembered, not for things that have been said about him on YouTube or his injuries on YouTube, but this is what Ethan Chapin should be remembered for.
She told me that the whole family loves country music, especially Ethan. He really loved Morgan Wallen. On Mother's Day 2022, Ethan sent her a text about how Morgan Wallen had written a song for his mom and how that could be their song. She said it was such a touching moment between them, something she won't forget. And she says she listens to that song all the time. I Thought You Should Know. That's the title of it. Morgan.
I did look up the lyrics to this song, and I'm going to read them to you now. This is the song that Ethan dedicated to his mom on his last Mother's Day on this earth. Thought You Should Know by Morgan Wallen. What's going on, Mama? Something just dawned on me. I ain't been home in some months. Been chasing songs and women. Making some bad decisions. God knows I'm drinking too much. Yeah, I know you've been worrying about me. You've been losing sleep since '93. I thought you should know that all those prayers you thought you wasted on me must have finally made their way on through. I thought you should know. I got me a girl down there in Jefferson City. She lets me fish whenever I want to. Yeah, I'm still proud of where I came from. Still your only damn son. Can you believe I'm on the radio? Just thought you should know. Oh, by the way, Mama, didn't mean to ramble on ya. How's everything back at home? Yeah, how's that garden coming? Is Dad still doing dumb shit? And how'd he keep you this long? Yeah, I'm sorry that I called you so late. I just miss you. But anyways, I thought you should know. But I really like this girl down in Jefferson City. And turns out she's a lot like you. Yeah, I'm still proud of where I came from. Still your only damn son. Just thought you should know. Thought you should know.
He's one in a million.
Yeah, he was.
Can't even begin to tell you how many people, and we can see it in their faces, they walk up to us and say, "You don't know me, but I have a story to tell you about your son."
Often, it's about how kind Ethan was. For one girl in high school, she told the Chapins that Ethan was the only person who was nice to her.
We knew he was a great kid, but, yeah.
I don't know, he's just a...
He's one in a million.
Yeah, he was. He just
What are you thinking about right now?
I just miss him. I miss him. I miss him every day.
Morgan Wallen got wind of all this, and the Chapin family was invited to his show in San Diego. These are pictures from the after show when they got to meet him backstage. And they also met his mom. Stacy says it was an incredibly bittersweet full circle moment for all of them. And she posted, truthfully, the show would have been enough. We were all over the moon to go. And then Morgan handed us a donation check for the Ethan Smile Foundation. It was one of the kindest gestures in my life. I still can't believe it happened. Morgan, thank you for everything.
I hope you guys enjoyed that. I really, really, really think that they have handled things so classy, and just that's how Ethan needs to be remembered. And this video might not get the tens of thousands of views that the fascination of rumors and speculation gets, but I have a son who was like that, who was nice to people, who didn't have anyone. And I think that that's so important. It's such a great quality we don't see in many people. So I think that that is a really important thing to remember. And I think that a lot of kids could learn from Ethan Chapin. If he made a difference in that one girl's life, that one girl, he was the only one that was nice to me. And she remembers that. Well, on that note, I am out. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed Dmitry. I enjoyed having him, and if you will subscribe to his channel, Replayers, it is in the description of this video. Thank you so much, everyone who joined us today. Thank you, Paper Chaser, for your super chat. Appreciate you. Everybody take care, and I will see you guys in the next video. Be sure to check out my other videos and playlists for more true crime content. And if that's not enough, you can join our Patreon. Don't have a tinfoil hat? It's okay. We'll make you one. It's that easy. See you guys in the next video.
See you later. Bye.
I don't give a damn. I don't really care about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. You talk way too much. I have heard enough about you and your problems. I don't give a damn.
Brian Koberger. I have to say to N.C. Taylor, the defense lawyer, bring it on, woman.
You wanna be with me. You wanna feel something real, but I'm feeling differently. You're making plans to get to France, but don't wanna face the fact that I ain't got time for that. Staying up late, sleeping all day, dreaming about Cadillacs. Buying new shoes, hanging by the pool.
A Ouija board down your pants, you're gonna pull that out.
Phone when you feel alone, but I'll never call you back.
Thanks so much, Jennifer.
I don't want Jennifer or two Jennifers.
Bye, Jennifer.